Hello once again, everyone, and part of my wonderful celebration for you guys being so fucking awesome, I found more of the crazy shit I wrote, and I'm going to read it to you. This is a movie review. I'm not gonna put, like, film clips and shit in this because it's really not, like, a proper review. It's just me reading something I wrote a long time ago. This, of course, is written by me. I keep saying that because I'm really nervous. This is Moonhorse Talks About Movies. This is the movie Life from 2017. So I thought I'd do this thing where I start writing again, make myself write again. Fuck it, let's talk about movies. So here's a movie I watched a little while ago. It's called Life, and it's not very good. Spoiler alert and shit, I'm totally going to talk about the plot. So the movie starts, and it mostly takes place on the ISS. That's International Space Station, for those of you who don't use Google. It's full of holograms and is really darkly lit, which I think is the exact opposite of what the actual ISS is like, but movie, so okay. There's this pod, and it's coming from Mars, and it's supposed to be docking at the ISS because it's got Mars stuff in it, and they're going to study it in space, as one does, and the pod's coming in, and it's a little off course. They catch it like badasses because NASA bitches! And once the pod's all locked up and stuff, they get the samples and the experiments and start, you know, experimenting. So here's our kickoff. There's a little single-celled organism inside one of the samples, and they start poking at it and shit, and weirdly enough, it comes back to life. Again, because movie. So little cell is like, I'm alive and I can totally just reproduce. And does so, a lot, to the point they're all like super fascinated. Fuck, I am too. That's good looking out, little cell dude. The little cell dude isn't a very good name, and NASA is all about names and shit, so they asked some kids to name it, and this leads to them announcing the name of the alien in Times Square for some reason. I don't know why. Never explained. Little cell dude's name is Calvin, though. It's worth pointing out, at this stage, we are all interested in Calvin. But by the end of this, Calvin is the only one who makes any goddamn sense. And even then, only kinda sorta. Time passes. Calvin's getting bigger, as one does, and the containment thingy that he's in starts leaking, so Calvin being Calvin goes into a coma because that's how he survived in space. Apparently, no air equals sleepy times. Okay, make a note of that. Remember it. Scientist man, who's all into Calvin, is like, he's not dead, he's just sleeping. And the other astronauts are like, okay, let him sleep, and we'll see if he wakes up later. Keep giving him good temperature and air and shit, and we'll watch. This is a good suggestion. This is not what happens. Duder decides he was going to wake Calvin up, so he gets a little shocky stick, like a little cattle prod. No shit, that's what it is. It looks like a little cattle prod. So he gets it into the containment thingy, and he zaps Calvin, and Calvin's like, fuck off, bro, I'm napping. So he zaps him again, and Calvin grabs the little zappy thing and his hand, and he squeezes them, breaking the zappy thing, because if you were taking a nap, and some giant dickhead zapped you with a taser to wake you up, you'd be justifiably pissed off too. I feel you, little alien dude. That's fucked. Scientist man from Scientist Land tries to distract Calvin with the shocky stick so he can get his hand out, but Calvin is like, dude, fuck you, that hurt, and straight up just breaks the dude's hand. Okay, a little bit of overkill there, Squid Man. Don't break a motherfucker's hand. So Scientist dude passes out from the pain, because that shit really fucking hurt. And the whole time, the other astronaut buds are watching this shit happen inside the lab. The lab! On the ISS. They keep debating about if someone should go in there and get him out. Calvin, on the other tentacle, decides, fuck this shit, I'm out. And takes the broken zappy stick and punches a hole in the glove thingy, and then gets out into the lab. The lab! Now they all see this, and they all watched it try to get out of the glove, then fail, then go back, get the pokey stick, and get out, and now they want to send someone in to get passed out Science Man. That's fucking good timing, ain't it? So Ryan Reynolds goes in to get the Science Man out. I know it's Ryan Reynolds because the whole time he's talking, all I could think about is Deadpool. So Deadpool goes in to get the Science Man out of the lab. The lab! And is now stuck in there with Calvin because Calvin grabbed his leg and is like, I love Deadpool, sign my tentacles, let's be bros. But Deadpool is all like, fuck that noise, and tried to kill him with a flamethrower. A flamethrower. International Space Station. NASA? You wanna tell us what the fuck you're doing up there? Anyway, this pisses off Calvin, and he gets all wild and attacks Deadpool and kills him because he didn't like that He didn't like that Wolverine movie he was in the first time and didn't have a mouth in that movie, so Calvin jumps down his throat and tears his shit up. Some of that might be my interpretation, but fuck it, it happened. Now Ryan Reynolds is dead. Pool. Ha. So NASA's fucking flamethrower sets off the fire suppression systems in the lab. The lab! And the vent thingies open up, and the captain and the other Space Cortez decide that shit needs closing, or Calvin will be all like Zoidberging up the pipes to freedom. Whoop, 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 whoop. Now some of you might have noticed me constantly putting the tidbit in there. The lab! Let me explain. The lab, made to study alien and possibly harmful materials in space. The idea of doing it on the International Space Station is that the risk of containment is very minute. Maybe 2 people get exposed at a time. Everything in a lab environment like that is made to keep contaminants from escaping. So nothing in that lab, including life support and fire suppression, should be connected to any of the other general systems on board the rest of the International Space Station. In fact, the idea of something getting loose in the lab should be easily solved by opening the hatch and venting the lab. There is, in fact, a hatch on the far wall. We see it several times. None of that shit fucking happens. Calvin zippity-doo-dahs up the fucking fire vents, and somehow that means he's gotten to the coolant tank that's responsible for keeping the communications online for the International Space Station. Because when I think cooling the antenna, I think hook that shit to the sprinklers. As you do. And all that being said, Captain Badass Russian Lady decides she is going out there and she's gonna fix this shit. Suit up, badass dialogue, so on, and out the fucking hatch, carrying nothing. If there was no coolant in the tank, how are you gonna fucking fix it? Were you gonna ask it nicely? It doesn't matter, though. Calvin was just chilling in there, and he zips out and jumps on her, and she closes the tube behind him to keep him from getting back inside. All the while, he's doing the wiggly tentacle dance all over her spacesuit. Hey, remember that note you took? No air equals sleepy times? Yeah, he's in fucking space now! In space and wiggle-waggling like a motherfucker. So Cappy Badass is gonna go back to the airlock, and Astro Buddy is gonna burn off the wacky-waving inflatable arm-flailing Martian. But on the way, she realizes she doesn't have a lot of time. So untether and jump. Oh, it's just like that scene from Gravity, except you jumped 10 feet and kind of bounced a little. Alright, look, I'm not an astronaut, and I don't know the most about space, but I think I, a dumpy space horse, could also make that jump. It's not fucking good, movie. It's not fucking good. So back to the hatch. Calvin broke her suit's water thingy, and now she's drowning in space. So she decides, I'm not going to open the hatch, but I'm going to keep Calvin out here, because if he's out here too long, he'll die because of no air. He's a Martian who's really good at holding his breath in space. So, hey, question, if your plan was in space, no one can hear Calvin breathe, why the fuck did you go to the airlock in the first place? Why not just, push off into space and fuck the little wiggler over? Because movie. So Captain Russia dies, and Calvin's like, oh yeah, I can't breathe, lol, and tries to get back into the International Space Station once more. However, as we know, if no airlocks are open, and you can't open them from the outside, well, you ain't getting in. Ah, movie's over. That was short. It's not. It's not over. Fucking Calvin and Hobbes decides to go in through the engines, because at some point, while being a single-celled organism on Mars, he learned how the fucking International Space Station works. Only in movie science ways, only fuck this movie. So they have this idea that every time he tries to get into an engine, they're gonna flip a switch and make barbecue Calvin burgers. And if this works for a bit, and they're like, oh shit son, we got no more fuel. And that's how Calvin gets back in the ship. Question. If you only had that little bit of fuel, how the fuck were you going to keep the space station from falling out of orbit? I realize that orbit is just falling really, really slowly, but really, that was all the gas you had? I think it takes more than that to keep that big fucker in the air. What was the plan? Pep talks, Viagra, ask gravity to fuck off to the store for a bit and push it while nobody was looking? Anyhow, Kal-El is all sneaking around the ship, and they decide to go get in a life pod and vent the rest of the ship so that he'll have no more air for the breathing. While this plan is coming together, Science Man sees the Wiggler from space flash in. He flashes by in like one frame. He's boop, and he was there. He says nothing. I don't know why. Now they're all in the pod and venting air, and shit's quiet and deep and meaningful, and Science Man with the broken hand is talking about how it's not evil. It's just trying to survive. It's just survival. Wait. It's just survival. Okay, ignoring the fact that you all said that you think it's some kind of advanced life form that intentionally is sabotaging the International Space Station, I have no idea how, in order to keep you all up there and alone. It's only attacking and eating you in order to survive. Did you not feed it? You have an alien from space. It's all growing and shit. And you didn't give it snacky times? Fuck, astronauts, you people are the worst people ever. You're the worst pet owners. God, I hope you don't have a fucking dog. This whole conflict can be solved if you just gave a Martian a cookie? Moving on. All quiet and shit. But Science Man is doing the dead man tango. And they don't know why until Astro Buddy notices something with his leg. And oh shit, it's Calvin and he's bigger and now he's got a scary face. Okay, why does he have a scary face though? If all of his cells act like every part of everything, why do you need a scary face? Because movie. So Zero G running from the space cousin of the Flap Flap that killed Steve Irwin, and they get into another pod. Save for one dude who's in the space bed pod thing. They sleep in space pods. Alien did it. That's why. Movie. So the other ship shows up. There's like a whole nother ship, and now it's there, and it's like, I'm docking super fast, and it shakes the whole ISS, and they're like, what the fuck, mate? And they think they're gonna get out, but Space Lady is like, there were 3 firewalls to keep Calvin on this ship. One was the container, the other was the lab, and the last is the International Space Station. The first 2 failed. Those astronauts are here to push the ISS into deep space and to keep this contained. Stop. Astronauts? There are people in that pod. Yeah, we see him. 2 dudes. How the fuck did that happen? Was NASA just like, hey, who wants to go to space and is also really suicidal? Explain, movie. Well, you see, it's because... Fuck you! So Podman lost his radio, and he thinks the random jolt means that they're saved. So he gets out of the pod, and he goes to the other ship, and they're not opening the airlock, and they're just giving the ISS a shove into the sun. So Duder gets a thing and bypasses the lock. Yelling happens. Calvin shows up and is like, hey guys, what's going on? And noms all their fucking faces. The last 2 astronauts show up after Calvin is snacking on their face bits. I don't know why they did that, but somehow the pod is twisting? And it breaks the hull. And it takes fucking 30 minutes to drain all of the air out into fucking space. Because... movie. So the last 2 start running off, and Calvin is like, fuck guys, wait up, I got space wings now, let me hug you. And they're all like, fuck nah, and they lock him out of the pod, and all his shit rips off, and the ISS is now like falling into Earth. I don't know, this movie makes my head hurt. So last plan, big finish. We got 2 pods, right? One goes to Earth, one goes to deep space. One space buddy leads the Flap Flap Martian into a pod and shoots off into space. The other is final survivor. Here we go. You know what's gonna happen. Flappers McGee gets in the pod with Starman and the ladies in the other, and they launch, and oh my shiz, there's like everywhere, and they get mixed up, and she goes into space, and astronaut ice cream and tentacle hentai wind up on Earth. And they land in a lake in, like, China for reasons. Even though he's like, don't open the hatch. And he's like flailing and being like, no, no. And the fishermen who find him are like, fuck it. And they open it anyhow, and Calvin takes Manhattan. This movie ends there. I like to imagine that those fishermen just like gave Calvin some food, like a Snickers, and he chilled the fuck out and he got cool. And now the 2 fishermen and the Martian are buds and they solve mysteries in a van and shit. I like my ending better. This movie fucking sucks. Holy shit. People are dumb, but... only for plot reasons. Nothing feels organic. This is the only movie with a space monster that makes you realize that the space monster isn't the bad guy a third of the way through it. In Alien, the alien is bad because it's a killing machine. Calvin is a lost Martian who these astro fucks didn't feed, and they woke him up from nappy time with a fucking car battery. Seriously. I honestly forgot I wrote that, but I'm kind of glad I was able to read it to you guys. So that was my review of the movie Life. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a really stupid movie. Calvin's kind of cute, though. I would totally get a space plush flap flap. It would be adorable. I would give him hugs. Anyway, I'm going to go and read some more stuff. And thanks again for listening to this, and for 1,000 subscribers, and for being fucking awesome. Not necessarily in that order, but all of them together eventually. Like some kind of combining robot. I don't know where I was going with that. It sounded cool in my head, and then it just wasn't. Anyhow, if you'd like to send me your own crazy stories, or movies that you think I should review in this wonderfully strange manner, or anything, you can send all of your notes to me at r/Moonhorse Stories. I check it every day. I will see it. If you'd like to support this show, I have a Patreon, and I sell t-shirts and all that other shit. So I'm going to go read some more stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you all. Goodbye.